Hello everyone. So in the previous class we have discussed about the pressures and filters, the working of pressures and filters, the cleaning of pressures and filter, and the operation problems in the filters. Okay, and the next part in module 3 is about the membrane filtration techniques. Okay, see what is this membrane technology and processes. So in the treatment of water it is required to remove all the impurities including suspended impurities, colloidal impurities, and the protozoal impurities, the viruses, bacteria, so that the water can be made potable and fit for drinking without the presence of pathogens. Here until so far we have learned that in sedimentation we will be able to remove the settleable solids. Okay, if it is aided with coagulation, so we will be removing some amount of suspended solids along with the settleable solids. Then followed by sedimentation, we have seen the removal of the other impurities like colloidal and suspended impurities which can't be removed in sedimentation process, and also some bacterial spores and bacteria using filtration by sand and other coarser material. So whereas in membrane technology it targets mostly the removal of harmful viruses, bacteria, and protozoans which are responsible for most of the waterborne diseases. Membrane processes covers the engineering approach for the transport of substances between two fractions with the help of a membrane in between. Okay, there are various types of membrane processes used for different applications. Membrane separation process involve without heat, and therefore it uses less conventional energy than some of the thermal processes available like distillation, sublimation, or crystallization. The separation process is purely physical, and both fractions, that is permeate and retentate, can be used. Okay, so permeate is the one that is which can be permeated through the membrane, that is across the membrane, and the retentate is the one which is retained behind the membrane. Okay, so these terms you should be aware of whenever we talk about the membrane processes. See, depending upon the type of membrane, the selective separation of certain individual substances or substance mixture is possible. So like I told you, membrane processes are used for various industrial applications as well as in the treatment of water. That is, worldwide approximately 7 million cubic meter of water is purified using the reverse osmosis processes. Whereas we also use membrane technologies in petrochemical industries and other chemical processing industries. How do membrane operations are classified? So basically they are classified under 4 heads: pressure driven operations, concentration driven operations, operations using electric potential gradient, and operations using temperature gradient. See, based on the application of membrane technologies, so they are classified under these different heads. Let us see what are different methods under these heads. So first one is called pressure driven operations. So this include the 4 different types of membrane processes, that is microfiltration, ultrafiltration, nanofiltration, and reverse osmosis. Here the pressure is applied across the membrane to filter the water. So that's why they are called as the pressure driven operations, and we are concerned more with this operations in the treatment of water compared to other membrane technologies. So these are called as concentration driven operations, and mostly some of these techniques are used in medical applications like dialysis, in the purification of blood in the patients related to renal or kidney issues, and evaporation in some of the industrial applications, and forward osmosis in some of the pharmaceutical industries, and artificial lung. So it is also a concentration driven application wherein the artificial lung is introduced in humans who have difficulty in breathing during the improper performance of lungs, and also during the in the cardiac patients. And especially these artificial lung techniques nowadays is extensively used in treating the COVID-19 patients, so that, as you all know, COVID-19 directly affects the lung operation. Then gas separation, these processes are used in the industries. Then we have something called as operations using electric potential gradient, that is called as electrodialysis. Like I told you, dialysis and electrodialysis are the processes which we generally used in the medical applications. And membrane electrolysis is also used, electro deionization, electrofiltration, fuel cell operations, and the operations using temperature gradient include the membrane distillation processes. See, we will not study in detail about all these processes, but just as a classification I am putting the slides for you to have some idea. So we are concerned more with the pressure driven applications because that is used mostly in the treatment of the water. Then there are mainly two flow configuration of the membrane processes. First one is called as cross flow or tangential flow, and second one is dead end filtration. In cross flow filtration, the feed flow is tangential to the surface of the membrane. The retentate is removed from the same side further downstream, whereas the permeate flow is tracked on the other side. Okay, so you can see clearly in the diagram. So these are the cross flow type of membrane module, wherein the water is fed here and the retentant is taken in a same direction. Okay, and this is the permeate, that is the treated water, or it could be any other liquid using this technology. So this is called as cross flow type of pattern, and this is called as dead end flow. So wherein the permeate enters from one direction and there will be a membrane in between, and you will get the permeate on the other side. So these are the cross flow and dead end flow types of membrane systems. Comparison between membrane geometries. That means based on the applications we can select the appropriate membrane configuration. Here the main disadvantage of dead end filtration is the extensive membrane fouling and concentration polarization. So we will understand more and talk about membrane fouling and its prevention in the subsequent slides. As of now, you just understand that membrane fouling is a process by which the performance of the membrane gets reduces due to the deposition of the impurities onto the membrane. Okay, similar to the rapid sand filtration, wherein the filter particles get clogged due to the impurities present. So here if you talk about membranes, we call it as membrane fouling. Okay, next, the tangential flow devices are more costly and they are labor intensive, but they are very less susceptible to the fouling due to the sweeping effects and high shear rates of the passing flow. The most commonly used synthetic membrane devices are flat sheets, plates, spiral wounds, and hollow fibers. That is, these are different configurations of the membranes which are used in the treatment of the water or any other liquids. Okay, so we'll talk about this in detail in subsequent slides with the diagram, so that you will have some idea about these membrane devices and its modules. It is also called as membrane modules. So now let us see the different configurations of the membrane and the classification based on its particle size. Okay, so here you can see the membrane logarithmic micrometer diameter on the top scale and some of the removal efficiencies of different membrane technologies. Okay, so this particle filtrations comes in the last side, wherein the pore size of the membrane may be in the order of 1000 micrometer. The next comes wherein we usually the sand is the medium here. Okay, so we can also use some cloth filters, okay, for the purification of the water, but for consideration of the particle size we are taking the benchmark or basement as the sand or particle filtration technology. So if it is decreased in the order of 100 micrometer to 10 meter or up to 10 raised to minus 4 micrometer, then we call it as microfiltration. If the membrane size again gets reduced by 0.1 meter to 0.01 micrometer, then we call it as ultrafiltration membranes. And if it is in the range of 0.01 to 0.001, then we call it as nanofiltration. If it is even less than that, then we call it as reverse osmosis processes. That means it is in the order of the particle size arrangement. That is, reverse osmosis comes in the last based on the pore size classification. Okay, see here you can see the different membrane configurations and its removal efficiencies here. For example, in microfiltration it will remove the monovalent ions, multivalent ions, and also some of the viruses may enter into the permeate. That means it will remove most of the bacteria and suspended solids, whereas viruses and some of the multivalent ions can enter into the permeate. Here in the next stage, that is ultrafiltration, where the particle size gets reduced, here some of the viruses can also be removed by using the ultrafiltration techniques, whereas we can also get monovalent and multivalent ions in the permeate. If you talk about nanofiltration, then nanofiltration retains some of the multivalent ions. It also removes some viruses and some bacteria and suspended solids, whereas only monovalent ions can be found in permeate. If you take reverse osmosis processes, that is, which is most efficient in removing almost all the impurities, even along with some of the monovalent and multivalent ions, and it is effective in comparison with all the membrane processes. Okay, I hope you have got some idea about the pore sizes of the membranes and the order of the membrane modules, that is based on the particle size, microfiltration, nanofiltration, ultrafiltration, nanofiltration, and last comes the reverse osmosis. Okay, so what is ultrafiltration and microfiltration? Okay, like I told you in the previous slide, the ultrafiltration will be having pore size of around 0.01 microns, whereas microfiltration has pore size of around 0.1 micron. That is, based on the particle size, they are simultaneously used. That is, we normally consider here ultrafiltration and microfiltration, so they are of similar kind because we use simultaneously these terms, and whereas nanofiltration and reverse osmosis we use simultaneously because so they are little bit similar in the treatment of water, but reverse osmosis is more effective. If you compare the ultra and microfiltration, then naturally ultrafiltration is more effective than microfiltration because of the less pore size. Okay, when the water undergoes microfiltration, many microorganisms are removed, but some of the viruses remain in the water. Like I have shown you in the previous slide, viruses will be retained in the permeate. It is not able to remove the viruses because of the more size, that is, viruses will have very less size so that they can easily pass through this microfiltration membranes. Similarly, ultrafiltration would remove these larger particles and may remove some viruses. It may not remove all the viruses, but it can remove some of the organisms and protozoans like copepods and some of the spores of the bacterial cells. Neither microfiltration nor ultrafiltration can remove dissolved substances unless they are first adsorbed with the activated carbon or coagulated. Here, please note that these membranes will not remove the dissolved substances. Like water may contain some of the dissolved solids in the form of carbonates of calcium and magnesium in the form of hardness, then these membranes are not able to remove those kinds of dissolved substances. Then coming to nanofiltration, so this is having even little more less pore size of around 0.001 micron. Okay, so nanofiltration removes most of the organic molecules, nearly all viruses and most of the organic matter, and also certain range of the dissolved salts. It also removes the divalent ions which makes the water hard. That is, nanofiltration membranes can be used in the softening of the water because of its tendency to remove the divalent ions of calcium and magnesium present in the hard water. That means we have known what causes the hardness in module 2, that is the presence of carbonates and bicarbonates of calcium and magnesium will cause the temporary hardness, and the presence of the other salts like sulfates, phosphates of calcium and magnesium will cause the permanent hardness. So nanofiltration membrane removes the hardness also, that is, it can be used in the softening of the water. Okay, then comes this reverse osmosis. Reverse osmosis filters have a pore size of around 0.0001 micron. When water passes through a reverse osmosis filter, then essentially it will be a very pure water because it removes all the viruses and also it removes most of the minerals which are present in the water. Reverse osmosis removes monovalent ions, which means that it also desalinates the water. That means because of its efficient and excellent purification efficiencies, reverse osmosis technologies are extensively used in the desalination of the water. Desalination of the water means removal of the monovalent salts and ions from the sea water. Okay, so that is, it is more predominant in the regions where we have very less surface and subsurface waters, and most people depend on the sea water for their water needs. That is, in parts of Arabia and some of the coastal areas where there is scarcity of the water. Okay, so before understanding the reverse osmosis process working, it is helpful to understand first what is meant by osmosis. Okay, so osmosis occurs when a semi-permeable membrane is introduced between two salt solutions of different concentration. The water will naturally migrate from weaker solution to the strong solution. This is called as the osmosis until the two solutions are of same concentration, because the semi-permeable membrane allows the water to pass through but not the salt. So this is called as osmosis. That is, the molecules here move from the lower concentration to the higher concentration because the water can easily pass through the membrane, whereas the salt will not pass. Okay, in the below diagram you will understand the processes clearly. In reverse osmosis, the two solutions are still separated by a semi-permeable membrane, but here the pressure is applied to reverse the natural flow of the water. This forces the water to move from the higher concentration solution to the weaker concentration solution, and the resultant is we will get the pure water. That is why it is called as reverse osmosis. That is, under normal osmotic conditions, the molecules will move from lower concentration to the higher concentration. That is, if you keep a solution of salt and water with a membrane in between, the molecules move from water to the salt. That is the usual osmosis process, whereas in reverse osmosis process the process is reversed. You can see this in this diagram. Okay, so this is the salt water, this is the fresh water, and this is the semi permeable membrane. So this is the normal process wherein the molecules move from the fresh water to the salt water naturally. Okay, so this is called as the osmosis process. Okay, here in the process of reverse osmosis, here what we are doing is the process here is reverse. That means we will apply the pressure across the higher concentration liquid so that the only water from this concentrate will be allowed towards the fresh water with the help of this membrane in between. So this is called as reverse osmosis, that is applying the pressure in the area of higher concentration to move only water to the lower concentration area, and this is the basis on which all the reverse osmosis process and membranes and modules work upon. Okay, so what are the advantages of these membrane processes? Okay, so like I have told you, so membrane processes remove most of the bacteria, viruses, protozoans, and it also removes the hardness in the water. That's why these are extensively used nowadays in most of the water treatment technologies. Nanofiltration, however, does not remove dissolved components. Reverse osmosis removes the turbidity including microbes and virtually all dissolved solids. However, while reverse osmosis removes many harmful minerals such as salt and lead, it also removes some of the healthy minerals such as calcium and magnesium, which are required by the humans. That is why the water which is treated by reverse osmosis benefits by going through a magnesium and calcium mineral bed. That means the membrane will not understand that it is even also removing the essential minerals. That is why the water which is treated by using reverse osmosis can be passed through a bed of calcium and magnesium, thereby to increase the calcium and mineral content in the water before it is supplied to the consumers. Okay, while it also increase the pH and decrease the corrosive potential of the water. Okay, the corrosive water may leach lead and copper from distribution system and household water pipes. That means if the water is having more pH, it will damage the distribution system. That means it will leach the copper and lead from the distribution network, that is pipes, from the pipes and apertures whenever from the treatment plant it reaches to the consumers. What are the disadvantages of using ultrafiltration, nanofiltration or reverse osmosis? Compared with the benefits of using membrane filtration to treat the water, there are various disadvantages as well. That is, if conventional water treatment process can effectively treat the water, then constructing a reverse osmosis water treatment plants would be an unnecessary cost. That means it will add the extra burden for treating the water. The reverse osmosis membranes removes a number of healthy minerals from the water in addition to the harmful minerals and particles. The removal of these minerals essentially involves calcium and magnesium. It makes the water unhealthy, especially for people with inadequate diets and people who live in hot climates, as water can provide these necessary minerals to the people who consume the water. Okay, so whereas to avoid this problem of reverse osmosis, we can use the reverse osmosis treated water by passing the water onto the beds of calcium and magnesium. And these membrane processes tend to be costly, and it also requires the maintenance and labor. See, this was the classification. Like I told you, microfiltration comes first, then ultrafiltration, then nano, then reverse. Please remember, it increases in the order of 1, 2, 3 zeros, that is 0.1, 0.01, 0.02, 0.003. This is easy for the remembrance, that is micro 0.1, nano 0.01, ultra 0.01, nano 0.001, reverse osmosis 0.0001 micrometers. Okay. See, this is another illustrative diagram that is based on the separation processes using the membranes. That is, sand filter will be in the order of 10 micrometer, okay, and it will remove the most of the air and other particles which comes in water, and microfiltration will remove bacteria, colloids and some RBCs, and ultrafiltration will remove viruses, organics and certain macromolecules, and nanofiltration removes organic compounds, solvents, pesticides and divalent dissolved salts, whereas reverse osmosis processes will also remove the monovalent dissolved salts along with the viruses and bacteria. Okay. And accordingly, this diagram illustrates the removal efficiencies like we have seen in the previous class along in the slide, and also along with the pressure used for the different processes. That means the transmembrane pressure required for the microfiltration will be in the order of 0.22 to 5 bar. Okay, here for ultrafiltration the pressure required is up to 1 to 10 bar. For nanofiltration the pressure required is up to 5 to 10 bar. Similarly, for reverse osmosis it will require usually more pressure of 10 to 150 bar. So that's why these tend to be uneconomical while we are using this reverse osmosis. So definitely it will need the more power to pump the water with high pressure to the semi-permeable membrane. Okay. See, based on the modules like I was telling, so the membranes are classified as the plate and frame module, the spiral wound module, the tubular module and hollow fiber modules. Okay, so these are generic modules mostly used in the reverse osmosis technologies. Here you can see this is the plate and frame type of membrane module. Okay, so these are usually made by the cellulose acetate membranes. Okay, so it is grooved under phenolic support plate, and this is the paper substrate, and these are the perforated PVC baffles. So this will be the arrangement of this module. So here you can see the porous tube, and this is the feed flow from the center and the membrane which will be covered over the top so that the water gets purified from this membranes, and these are called as hollow fine fibers. So in this system many such hollow fibers are placed and arranged parallelly, and water is fed here so that the water gets treated using this hollow fibers, and the product water can be taken out. This is the hollow fine feeder module, and this is called as spiral wound. So here you can see a central permeate out pipe, and where the feed flow will be allowed from one end, and you will have the membranes wrapped around this central pipe. Okay, so here you can see this is the permeate flow which passes through different layers of the membranes. Okay, so these are, so based on there is some term called as packing density. Okay, so out of all this, so this spiral wound will have the more packing density. That is why these kinds of usually membranes are used in the desalination of the water because of its high packing density. Okay, so these are plate and frame modules. Okay, like I was telling, so based on the suitability these can be used in the different applications. Okay, so these are used in the treatment of water contain high amount of foiling agents or having the high viscosities. Okay, so in many commercial membrane bioreactor modules belongs to plate and frame configuration, that is MBR processes are used, that is these are the membranes usually used in the treatment of water. Plate and frame modules typically consists of flat sheet membranes. They are sealed to the frames, which provide the overall mechanical integrity and flow distribution needed to stack individual frames together in a modular way. Okay, so these are some of the parameters of this module. That is, area of the including sheet will be 0.25 meter square, active membrane area per sheet is 0.23 meter square, thickness of the individual membrane is 200 micrometer, distance between the membrane sheet is 8 mm, number of sheets per module is 43, internal volume of the module is 0.09 meter cube, area active per module is 9.9 meter square, and packing density is 110. Next we have the spiral wound modules. So it represents most common membrane configurations in today's water treatment industries. The reason being a combination of high achievable packing density and the fact that spiral wound modules are based on flat sheet membranes. Like I was telling about the packing density. The most common membrane form factor in today's membrane production industry is this spiral wound modules. You might have also seen these kinds of modules in the AquaGuard filtration systems and all, wherein these are arranged in parallel on the backside panel. Okay, the spiral wound modules for reverse osmosis mediated desalination of seawater can reach packing densities as high as 1200 meter square per meter cube. That means these are having relatively high packing density compared to the earlier module. Okay, to achieve this kind of packing density, the distance between member layers become less than 1 mm. That is, the distance between each membrane is very less. Thereby, so these are prone to the fouling. Okay, that means I told you that fouling is a process of deposition of the impurities on the membranes, thereby reducing the efficiency of the membrane processes. And obviously, because of the very less spacing between the membrane modules and membrane layers here in this particular module, the fouling is common. These are the parameters of this module. The width is around 0.5 meter, the membrane length is 20 meter, the thickness of individual membrane layer is 200 micrometer, the spacer thickness is 3 mm, inner diameter of collection tube is about 10 mm, outer diameter of the membrane roll is about 200 micrometer, internal volume of the module is 0.03 meter cube, active area per module is 9.5 meter square. Then comes hollow fiber modules. These are basically tubular modules with very high packing densities and are used extensively for large volume of water treatment, especially in the desalination of the water. Okay, and because of the again smaller internal diameters, so these are also susceptible for the fouling. Okay, and these are some of the parameters of this membrane module. Particularly, you should concentrate more on this packing density. Okay, so this will be having packing density of the order of 1600, and usually it comes in a length of 1 meter. Okay, so we'll stop at this stage. We have studied about different, so we'll talk about flux permeability in the next class. Okay, so in this class we have studied about the membrane technologies, membrane processes, then sizes of the membrane, the principle of the membrane technologies, and the pressure related process and different membrane processes and its removal efficiencies. Okay, so we'll again meet in the next class related to, and we'll discuss about the flux, norming, permeability, and other things like salt passage and the removal efficiencies in detail. Thank you.